This is Jonathan, you're watching Conscious Endeavors. We're talking about toxicity today. Toxic people. When you have toxic people in your life, it's teaching you how to stand on your own 2 feet. It's teaching you a mirrored reflection that exists within yourself. If there's someone being toxic to you, that's just a mirrored reflection that also exists within yourself. A lot of toxic people project how they feel onto other people, and that's the reason why they're being toxic. They don't know how to exhaust or how to heal what they're dealing with. So a lot of times people will project this toxicity because the mind has a subconscious garbage disposal. So you can say, let's use that as an example. The mind, your subconscious mind, has a way of dumping toxicity on other people if you have no idea what to do. Maybe you're seeking healing from the other person. So if you have a toxic person in your life, it also is a mirrored reflection of what exists within yourself. It means that you're also being toxic to yourself. So you can learn and grow from that. People who are toxic project their toxicity onto other people because they see other people as being a source of healing for them. So the mind has this subconscious garbage disposal that it goes through, and the people don't even know that they're doing it. And you can tell, you can see, especially when somebody's under the influence of drugs or alcohol, because the damaged, wounded inner child comes out. So instead of running away and burying it, face it and transmute it. Feel the emotion in your heart and in your mind. Put the emotion in the cloud and let the cloud float away. Transmute that hate, that anger, into love. Feel the emotion and let it pass. Don't bury it and don't run away from it. Because what persists in your life what you resist in your life also persists in your life. That's the saying. What you resist in your life persists in your life. So if you run away from toxicity, it's just going to follow you until you learn how to transmute it. You don't need to take drugs. You don't need prescriptions. This is a cabal brainwashing. This is how the rich get richer. Don't run towards pharma if you can't take care of something yourself. You don't run towards big pharma. This is not a solution. Because a big pharma is only about making the money and making the rich richer. It's got nothing to do with healing. There are certain situations that people, maybe 10% of the time, some medications can be very useful and vital, and some medications do save lives. But what I mean is, I'm seeing a paradigm of people constantly running towards medications and using them as a band-aid to cover open wounds instead of healing those wounds themselves. And medication, you're only putting the band-aid on the problem, and you're never going to heal it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, this is just my hobby. And I'm explaining what I see in my reality. So I'm not giving any medical advice here. I'm trying to show and maybe give an example of how someone could transmute and deal with their issues without having to run towards their own band-aids and medications, figuratively speaking. So you're supposed to feel the emotion and then let it pass. You're not supposed to bury it or run away from it. And the reason we have toxic people in our lives is so we can grow and become stronger. Sometimes you might want to point the finger outward and tell other people that they're toxic, but be careful, because sometimes you might just be projecting how you are. I've recently had a situation where a friend of mine told me I was being toxic, which I think is kind of funny because he doesn't realize that he's projecting how he is onto me. I apparently was toxic because I snapped off on him for doing something I didn't like. That's the bully telling the victim that he's being toxic, when really the bully is the one being toxic. You can't bully someone or try to get a rise out of them, and then in turn go ahead and tell the other person that they're toxic. That doesn't happen. That shouldn't happen ever. So this is a situation where the person is projecting how they really are onto somebody else, and they're not taking responsibility for their own actions. So people who don't take responsibility for their actions will project, and they will point the finger outward to the other person. But look at what happens every time you point the finger outward. There's 3 pointing back at you, which means you have to go in within yourself. I'm giving examples and not trying to throw anybody under the bus here. So this is a good way of learning and growing from your adverse situation and challenge. Realize what you're doing and make sure that you're not projecting that onto other people. You have to be conscious of what's happening, and a lot of people don't understand this. So instead of taking responsibility for their actions, they're just going to point the finger outward. But what happens when you point the finger outward? There's 3 fingers pointing back at you. Conscious endeavors.